Hello, and welcome back to Alchemical Serenity, the podcast that takes you on a journey through the woods, across the fields and moors, down to the beach where we can sit around a campfire and talk all things pagan, druidry and witchy in a way that works for you, your path, your journey, in this experience of being human. Now, my name is Carolyn and I've been treading this path for over 40 years, and I love sharing any of my experiences that might help someone trying to find their path. So if you are already a subscriber, thank you for being here. But if you're new to the channel and you've just found me, welcome. Grab a seat. You put your AirPods in or your headphones with a cup of your favourite brew, sit back and listen in as I tell you all about some extra bits for this time of the year on Beltane. So what is Beltane? Well, most people on a spiritual path have probably heard of Beltane and its many different ways to celebrate in a modern pagan lifestyle. However, it does have its roots that go back a long old way. Now, if you follow the Wheel of the Year, it's a cross-quarter date that falls on May the 1st. But as always, celebrations start at dusk or sunset the night before. So if you listen to my previous podcast on explaining the Wheel of the Year, you may remember I mentioned that cross-quarter days were always the height of the season taking place at that point in time. So if this is spring, we are now at the height of spring and we are heading now into all its beauty, all of spring's abundance as we move towards summer. Now, our ancestors may not have celebrated on the 1st of May. They would have waited for the hawthorn, also known as the maythorn, to flower, which is usually about mid-May, because it was all part of, firstly, for the old Julian calendar, but of course without a calendar you would just go by what was out there in the fields, and the maythorn was always the first sign of spring proper. So they would have waited for the maythorn to flower, and the first one would have signified that it was time as a symbol to celebrate that time of the year. But it doesn't really matter when you celebrate it, whether you jump in at the beginning of May or perhaps you go in the middle. What matters is your connection to those energies. So unless you're part of a group that likes to get together for ritual purposes, then just find your time. You know, if this is your first year following the wheel or your path, and you just don't quite know where you're going with it, these festival dates can feel really quite overwhelming because there's so much out there. You type it into any search engine and you will come up with so much stuff. And then there's loads of books that people have written about Beltane. How you can write any more than a handful of books on Beltane is beyond me, because it was this and then we do this, and basically I think you get to a point where there's just a bit too much overload. So there's no hard or fast rule to how you celebrate your first year. You may only want to do something particularly small, light a candle, hold perhaps a little ritual in your garden, something very personal. And each year perhaps you'll add something a little bit more into the mix. So Beltane itself is the fertility festival, representing the union of the goddess and the god. Earth and sky, if you like, yin and yang energies, and spring in all its glory. The May Queen and the Green Man come together to reflect the harmonious balance of the energies of nature. The May Queen embodies the essence of feminine energies or fertility and abundance, and usually a young woman wearing a crown of flowers would represent the earth goddess in her aspect of maidenhood, and her role being to ensure prosperity of the land. The Green Man symbolises the masculine energy, and he is often seen as the face surrounded by foliage, leaves and branches, and you can often see them made into plaques that you'd put on your wall. I've got 2 or 3 in my garden which are lovely. Some faces are I saw one the other day in one of the garden centres where he was sticking his tongue out, which I thought was quite cheeky. I quite like that. I thought that would be quite funny to put down the bottom of the garden, just as someone's walking down there's the Green Man popping his face out, with sticking his tongue out. I thought that'd be really, really quite funny. But the Green Man represents the cycle of growth, decay and renewal of the natural world, and he's the life force of all living things, sustaining that circle of life. History and folklore, there is much written on this subject. Like I've already said, books, vlogs, books, somebody's plagiarised somebody else's websites. I mean, just in researching, sometimes I like to go and have a look and think, has somebody else come with a new idea I could perhaps share, or I'd like to go and look at other people's ways of celebrating. And it's amazing how many feeds you find of like magazine style websites that have plagiarised somebody else's work. And of course, the biggest problem we've got now is going to be AI, which is plagiarising everybody's work. We only have some knowledge of how Beltane would be celebrated by our ancestors. In Cormac's glossary, he explains that the Druids lit fires for good luck, and cattle were driven through a gap between two fires to bless them for the forthcoming year. Now, this still took place in Ayrshire in Scotland till about 1780, and it may well still take place today, because Beltane actually means bright fire. The Druids were incredibly clever bunch. They knew the time of the year by the transition of the stars, and they had their equivalent of astronomers to track the moon and the stars across the sky, and of course they would then wait for the Maythorn flower to come out. Many other countries celebrate this time across Europe. Now, the earliest festival we know of is the Roman one of Floralia. This is a festival of the goddess Flora. She's the goddess of flowers, and her festival took place between the 28th of April and the 3rd of May. This was also a festival. There was also, a festival called. Now, I'm not sure how this is pronounced. It's sort of Mayuma. It's spelled Maiuma if you want to go look it up, which goes back to about 2000 AD. This took place every 3 years and was about the relationships between Dionysus and Aphrodite. Now, Ceres was the Roman goddess of agriculture, crops and fertility of the land, and prayers and incantations were also made to Ceres. Baal, or Belenus, was the god of Beltane and was named after because of the fires of Bel that take place all over the UK. Now, I have stuck to sort of the British customs here, as I'm not a podcast about what happens in Europe, and there's lots of other people who will talk about their European hereditary across Germany and France, etc. And there's plenty of places you can find that information out if you wish to. But I'd rather sort of stick to the British ones that I'm used to. Otherwise, I don't want to put out something that is completely incorrect, because it's not my country's policy or country's tradition. Hand fasting ceremonies often took place at this time of the year. Now, they are more akin to marriage, but back in the day, a hand fasting lasted for a year and a day. And at the end of this time, the couple could either agree to stay together or leg it in opposite directions. I do actually think there's some sensibility in that, quite frankly. Beltane has different spellings depending on where you are in the UK as well. So the Irish Gaelic would be Beltana, usually with the E pronounced. I've heard a lot of people pronounce it with the E. Scots Gaelic is sort of Beltane, which is L-N. Manx, which is Isle of Man, is Boaldin. Welsh is Calanmai. Cornish is Callan with a K and double N, me. And Breton is Carla May. So they're all very much around the May theme, depending on what part of the country you're in. So it's that I find that quite interesting. In Scotland, Beltane has been celebrated for centuries, and in the town of Peebles, which is located in the southern eastern borders of England, so it's just the other side of Hadrian's Wall, really, they would crown the Beltane Queen. And in both Glasgow and Edinburgh, huge festivals take place and still do. Edinburgh's Fire Festival on May Eve takes place at Carlton Hill, and it's a huge procession with lots of spectators and partying, and you can find plenty of video sort of vlogs of that if you're interested in watching it on YouTube. I've seen quite a few of those where they walk through with lots of big torches burning, and there's loads of bagpipes and loads of drums. It's really very, very noisy celebration. It's absolutely brilliant. If you wanted to go and look into that further, you can't miss it, because there's lots of it. If you just put in the Beltane Festival Edinburgh, you'll find it come up on YouTube. Now, in England, May Day is obviously 1st of May, but it can fall on any day of the week. So on the first Monday of May, it was chosen to be a public bank holiday in 1978. Now, there have been several attempts to abolish it by the government parties to form a later date in October, but it's always failed. And so the Monday falls actually in the school term time. So all the schools close on that day, and it's the only one, I think, in theory, that is a bank holiday Monday in school term time, where the rest of them all sort of fall, around Easter, or we have another one at the end of August, which is kind of the last bank holiday as changing over as before the schools go back in for their autumn term, and obviously there's Christmas and what have you. But this is the only one where we have one. We actually have two in May. We're quite lucky. We have this first one of May Day at the beginning of May, and we have another one which was always known as Whit Week. It was Whitsun Week, and that's when the schools are on their half term, and we have a bank holiday there as well, which is ideal for parents who are wanting to go away on holiday because they get an extra day free. During Cromwell's reign, after the English Civil War in the 1600s, May Day, like many others, was abolished by his parliament because Cromwell saw all forms of celebration as ungodly. However, after his death and the subsequent return of the king to the English throne, Charles II, holidays were all reinstated again. Now, one of the many celebrations taking place to this day is in Oxford, where for over 500 years Magdalen College Choir climbed to the top of their tower, and from 6 a.m. on May morning they will sing, and they have certain songs that they wish to that they do every year. Now, if you follow Christian faith, you may be interested in hearing this. So they are Christian faith based, but they are beautiful to listen to, I suppose, is probably the best way to sing, because I'm not entirely sure what they sing and I didn't look it up. But I will leave you a link in the box below to the information on that if you'd like to go and listen. To be perfectly honest, you don't even need to be a follower of the Christian faith. It's just nice to listen to anyway, and it's the choir, and they go right to the top on the roof, and it is lovely. And there's people gather down below and listen. And they've had so many people just go out at 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun is up, especially if it's a beautiful morning. So that might be something you might be interested in going and listening to. And if you're in the Oxford area, go and have a look and let me know if you've or have you ever been. If you actually are a resident in Oxfordshire and you've actually been along, or you've been at Magdalen College, you've been at University at Oxford, and you've been part of that, and you're listening into this, and just leave me a comment below, because I think it's absolutely lovely tradition. Other traditions, the tradition that had to be stopped was that students have had to be banned from jumping off Magdalen Bridge into the water below, because there have been some horrific consequences from jumping off in their revelry and excitement for it being May Day, because the actual water is only 2 foot deep. And I'll leave that thought with you, because I'm not going to say any more. But the bridge is now closed on May the 1st to ensure that the students are safe. And in Durham, which is in the northeast of England, people gather on Prebend Bridge to watch the sunrise with lots of folk music. In Whitstable in Kent, Jack in the Green Festival leads an annual procession of Morris dancing through the town, and clog dancers make their way across Barming Bridge over the Medway River. And down in Cornwall in Padstow, there is the Obios Festival. Now, this is believed to be one of the oldest fertility rites taking place in the UK. The whole town is decorated, and thousands of onlookers come to watch the Obios procession take place. Chalice Well, Glastonbury, they always do a dedication around the actual well head itself, and they have a live feed on their Facebook page. So if you're part of the Chalice Well Facebook page, or if you'd like to watch that, have a look for it on Facebook, and I'll try and leave a link to the page in the notes below. It's usually about 9 o'clock GMT, but obviously that's when it takes place live, but it's left on their Facebook, so you can go and watch that as well. Then there's also the Maypole procession that takes to the streets at about 12:30, again GMT, or as I call it this time of the year, Green Man time. Lots more goes on before the 1st of May, and I'll just leave a link to the Facebook page, and you can go and have a look for that. In Great Torrington, which is a small town in North Devon, a May Day procession takes place and has done so for centuries. The children take part from the local schools. There is a May Queen and also a Maypole, and there's lots of dancing in the square, and it's all done up with bunting, and it's a lovely event to go and watch, and it takes place on the first Thursday in May. Now, I was very lucky. For a period of time I actually lived in that town, and it was really nice to go and watch and take part. Well, not so much take part, but go and watch, and the children were absolutely fantastic, and it dates back to about 1554. So if you are in North Devon on that first week of May, it generally happens all the time, but it's also publicised on Facebook and online if you want to go and have a look. It's the Bluecoats Primary School that is involved in it, and they always have something on their website. So I can definitely recommend going seeing it, but it does get quite busy depending on the weather. If it's raining, which it often does, take your brolly. But it's still nice to see and to witness a very, very old custom still taking place 500 years later. And obviously, there's festivals, there's traditions, celebrations taking place all over the UK. There's probably hundreds I've missed on here, and you probably go, oh yeah, we do such and such in our town. If you do, wherever you are in the world, whatever you do for Beltane, if you're overseas, let me know what you do, because it fascinates me what traditions have started somewhere like 1554, but have grown to something new. They've become modern. They've become neo-pagan. They are now part of another town's way of celebrating the fertility time. So it's always interesting to find out what other towns are doing. It might just be a little nod, and out comes the maypole, and it has something else, and it's a more religious based festival. It doesn't really matter. It's the fact that communities come together and they celebrate this time of the year and spring in all its abundance. And many Druid groves and Wiccan covens meet on various dates at stone circles and sites across the UK. Some just meet in their garden, or they have a small get-together in their house. Whether you see a large procession or celebration taking place in places like Glastonbury, Stonehenge, Avebury, or it's something going on in somebody's back garden, there is always a celebration somewhere, a barbecue, a couple of beers, a fire pit in the garden. There's always something going on in this country for Beltane. So what can we do to celebrate? Well, to be honest, I can't tell you anything really different to all the books, YouTube videos, vlogs, etc., 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 because Beltane is either something you do as a solitary person or a practitioner, depending on your path. You might do it with friends, you might do it with groups. Personally, I'm a solitary practitioner. My path is very simple. I'm not into elaborate parties or standing on hilltops in Somerset watching the sunrise, even though I have been there and I have done that. And if you ever get the opportunity to do that, to go to Glastonbury, to go to Stonehenge or Avebury, for any of these festivals, they are something to be witnessed and to be part of. And you might only do it once in a lifetime. You might even just watch it online. They are great fun, and there's lots of drumming and lots of singing taking place, and they're kind of one of those things that I always say it's like a rite of passage. Sometimes you feel like, yeah, I'll go and do that, and then you come away from it, you either loved it or you hate it. It's a bit like Marmite. Beltane just invites us to honour the union between the god and the goddess, and also awakening of our own creative spark. So honouring that's the sacred symbols of like fires, maypoles, May, the hawthorn. Unless you've got plenty of time and resources, then celebrating Beltane may well just be small or a medium-sized affair for you. There's nothing to say that you have to have huge parties, light bonfires, burn candles, get completely and utterly drunk, and be incredibly merry, or travel great distances to be part of something larger. It can all be just very, very quiet. And sometimes these larger things, they can be very impersonal. Now, my attitude to following this path, as I always say to everybody, is just find your space, find what works for you. All festivals or Sabbats are always about you, your family, commitment, what time you've got and what resources. And you may find that you listen to this podcast, watch a few more vlogs and go, nah, again, can't be really bothered, faff, no, not for me. I'll just light a candle and give a quick nod, and I can see some maythorn growing in the garden. I might just go and pick a few flowers and perhaps put them in a vase. If that's it, if you go foraging and you pick up a few flowers of the maythorn, then that's it. That's all you need to do, because you've done that little bit, and it really doesn't matter what you do at all. Now, if you have a sacred space inside or out, then maybe spend some time there doing a meditation or just sitting and enjoying the spring sun. Well, I say spring sun. That's just me being optimistic in the UK. All we've had recently is rain, and a bit more rain. Now today, as I'm recording this, there's actually some of that yellow stuff in the sky. Don't mention its name. It's that disc thing that's a bit circular and a bit warm, and it's up there. It gets covered by some fluffy white things for a period of time, but then it comes out again. I daren't say its name in case I frighten it away. This time of the year can be a great time to shake off the last of the stagnant energy that we have carried with us from winter into spring. And it's that vibrant energy filled time, full of fertility and growing abundance. Now, in my optimism for some more of that yellow stuff in the sky, I always say get out in nature and walk. You will see such a difference the last time you walked if you went out in earlier spring. Why not document it with a short video of a favourite place? I like to do those full circle ones 3 or 4 times over a period of the year, so that you just start your phone, whatever you use to make a little video recording, not on portrait. I do it on landscape because you can see it better, and I just go full circle, and then I will hold that somewhere, and then I will go and do it perhaps again in summer, and the same place again in autumn, and the same place again in winter. And it's quite fascinating to see the difference in the seasons. It's really lovely. And I used to have a place where I lived in Devon. I lived on a farm, and it was great to go and do that in the middle of the field and see the difference in the trees and how the whole of everything changed over that period of time. So that's always something that I think is a really good thing to do. If you visit that same place every 6 weeks, that's, if you're a dog walker and you always take your dog to the same place, then do a little recording of where you are and every 6 weeks just to see the change. And it's amazing how we spot something different when we look back at it. When we walk through nature itself and we're walking the dog and it's, perhaps we're on a time, we're trying to get a lot done in a period of time. I'm the same. I'm terrible. Sometimes I take my dog out and it's like, just get the dog walked. And then I'll get home and I've got this to do and I've got that to do. But if you have that moment of being able to just stop and look at something, or perhaps look at it a year later and say, I remember when I walked that, and look at those plants that have come out there, and I didn't realise that tree was a such and such, and that's actually a hawthorn. Oh, look at those plants coming up. And perhaps then later on you'll maybe even see something where mushrooms are growing. That, to me, just being able to watch that bit of nature from your armchair, because at the time you're out there walking it, you miss so much. You can't see everything all at once, and being able to just sit back and look at that and put it together, a little sequence, if you like, if you use YouTube or you use TikTok or something, and putting it on there and just letting other people see a little area of your park or a space. And if you do something like that, leave me a comment, leave me a link. I'd like to go and see where you are, and if you do that over the year, because things like that absolutely fascinate me. If you're growing your own plants, veggies, flowers this year, what's on your list to do in the garden? Pots, balcony, even just the window ledge. Are you doing anything at all for the growing season? What's your favourite plants to grow? If you'd like some correspondences, I'm going to give you a few bits here. However, last year I did record a podcast on Beltane itself. There's more in that one, I think, from what I can remember. I'll leave a link to it somewhere in the little box might appear in as you're watching the and listening to this, actually on YouTube itself. However, I'll try and remember to leave a link below to that actual one of Beltane. You might want to go and listen to that for more correspondences. But however, if you want to use some stones, good ones would be rose quartz for love and passion, green aventurine for prosperity. Energy can be brought in from the sun through citrine, and also citrine is a very good one for bringing in money in abundance. And moonstone, because, well, who doesn't love working with the energies of the moon at any time of the year? Plants are obviously hawthorn, roses, bluebells, forget-me-nots are all coming up, dandelions in abundance. We've had so much rain, the dandelions in my area have gone absolutely berserk, and it's like a carpet of dandelions. I actually wish this time of the year I made dandelion wine, or I could do something else with them, because they're on the roadsides themselves, and especially on the quieter lanes where I go to get to my horses, they are just in abundance. They're all over my fields. And I'm just thinking, I really have to get organised. Now, the thing is, though, if I go and buy all the stuff to make dandelion wine next year, or perhaps to make dandelion tonics or something or other with dandelion, next year it'll be dry. There won't be any, because I don't remember seeing as many on my way to the farm where my horses are last year as I have this year. So that would be just my luck. I'll get myself really organised, spend all the money thinking, yes, I'm ready for this. Here we go. Let's make some dandelion wine. And there'll be none at all. If you're what have we got? Daisies obviously they're all coming up as well, and you can do all sorts of things with daisies, with dandelions, with roses. Animals are swans, because swans this time of the year are mating for life. Stags, because of the green man and that energy of the forest. And bees and butterflies, because they're all out now, aren't they? And of course we have to protect the bees and the butterflies. If you're looking at correspondences for foods to eat, honey, green salads, cake, any time of the year, cake. I don't mind cake any time of the year. Spring veggies to make you feel not so guilty about eating so much cake. Herbs, elderflowers, they'll be starting to appear very soon. Although obviously don't touch your elderflowers. You can touch obviously you can use your elderflowers, brilliant. Don't touch any of the elderberries until later on in the season. We'll come to all of those at a later time. And strawberries are starting to appear as well, especially the nice sort of farmed strawberries where you can go and pick your own. That won't be long before there's a few of the early strawberries coming out. On the Wheel of the Year, Beltane is opposite Samhain. So, which means it's also a night where the veil between the world of the living and our ancestors is thin enough. If you wish, you can use it again to make contact with a family member. It's not as elaborate as Samhain is for ancestry contact. Samhain is all about our ancestors. However, you've still got that, because it's across from Samhain on the Wheel of the Year. You can still use it as a time, if you want to sit in meditation and perhaps try and contact the energies of any of your family that have crossed over. So Beltane is all about energy. So if you're walking a path where you like to connect with the energies of your country, your county, town, village, even right down to your own garden or small space, one of the things I like to do is to get some dried bay leaves and write on them anything that I wish to get rid of at this time of the year and use those energies. If there's something that isn't serving me, or there's someone that I'd like their negative energy to be pushed away, or if there's something within my psyche that isn't working for me, I write down on I use a dry bay leaf, write it down with a pen, and then I will toss that into a little fire pit outside on my patio and let the bay leaves remove the energies from my life. Now, once the ashes have died down and they've gone cold, I will spread those onto the garden, because they are finished and the ashes are good for the garden. If you like to journal, you can ask yourself the following questions. What is your focus for this season? What can you focus your heart intention on at this time of the year? And what challenges can you use the Beltane energies to work with? If you like to meditate, then I have started a new channel with meditations and creative visualizations on that I'm slowly adding to. It takes a bit of time to write them and then record them. And I'll be adding one for Beltane very soon, so that you can sit in meditation and do a creative visualization to connect with the goddess and the green man. And I'll leave a link in the description box below for you to go to the channel. However, the Beltane one won't be on for a day or two. I just need to record that and edit it and pop that one up. So bear with me, as it does take a while to write these to make sure that they flow properly and they work with you and your energies, and I get the right sort of music and the right sort of, if you don't want to close your eyes but you want to look at something, then I'll put a visualization up on the actual screen itself. So, but that will be moving forward throughout the year. So that's really all I can say about Beltane without saying something I've already said myself on a previous podcast, or that everybody else has said. These energies of Beltane are from now through to end of May. So you've got plenty of time to dance, sing, make a maythorn crown, gather your flowers, do whatever you like, whether you go with some of the old traditions or whether you start a new tradition for you and your family. You know, it doesn't really matter. The older traditions were there because that's the time of life that our ancestors were in. We're now in a different digital age. You might want to just put your phone down and go, no, I'm going to switch my phone off. I'm going to go and walk in country, and I'm going to pass through the woods, and I'm going to stop and listen. I did exactly that last week, and I actually heard 2 woodpeckers. I have never heard the woodpeckers in the area of trees that I have walked for 5 years with my dog on a daily basis. And my daughter and I were out there and we went, oh, woodpeckers, listen. And they were really having a good old bash at this tree. And we did see them fly off. Couldn't tell which of the 2 woodpeckers native to this country they were. They were too far away. And we just carried on walking. But because we had to walk past the same spot to get home, we listened again and they were still up in the same tree. So it was really lovely to hear. Whether I hear them again, I don't know. But it's just sometimes nice to hear something completely different instead of the sound of a car racing past. Thank you. Thank you for listening in, and thank you to my Patreons, Kate and Karen, for all of your support. I just had to stop then. I had a coughing fit. This time of the year with all those energies, I have allergies towards sort of hay fever and anything blowing off the trees, and we've just had 24 hours of some really strong gusty winds, and all the rubbish has come off the trees, off the top of houses, and it's all in the air, and we haven't had enough rain to like bring it down and dump it on the ground. And I had a real big coughing fit then. I had to stop because that wouldn't have been very polite, would it? As I said, thank you to my patrons for your support. If you are a paid subscriber or you buy me a coffee, you will always get a shout out. And obviously on my Patreon channel, I do a oracle reading every week, and also I'm starting to add some workbooks hopefully in the next couple of months, which will be for patrons. And it might necessarily be downloadable. It might be a case of, if you're a patron, you've got an email address I can just send them to. I will send you a copy of the workbooks that you can either print off or you can just use as an aid memoir to the time of the year. So have a wonderful rest of your week. I will see you again soon, and enjoy the time of Beltane when it comes around. Don't forget the meditation will be there for you on the other channel. Links to everything will be in the description below, and I will see you again for more herby, witchy, druidy, other stuff very, very soon. But until then, lots of love and light in your grove, and I will be here to chat again very, very soon. Take care for now. Bye bye.